really needs a top-tier candidate to change the dominant culture. He thinks the significance of this campaign extends well beyond whether or not Zoran Mamdani wins, that it could force other political candidates in the years to come to take the concerns of these communities seriously and to genuinely engage with them in ways they normally do not.
That's WNYC's Arun Venugopal. Arun, thank you for this.
Thanks, Michael.
WNYC receives support from Compassion and Choices. Compassion and Choices provides no-cost tools and guidance to help individuals document their healthcare wishes and ensure they're honored. Resources are available at cnc.org/now.
WNYC is independent public media, here to serve you and our entire community. We're listener-supported and proud of it. Financial contributions from listeners like you make our work possible. When you give to WNYC, you're helping to fund the news you count on and the conversations yet to come. Please become a member now. Just visit WNYC.org and click on Donate.
Marketplace Morning Report is coming up next, and then in 10 minutes at 9 o'clock, it's the BBC NewsHour on WNYC. Let's check in with London and see what they're working on. Hello, London.
Good morning, WNYC. I'm James Menendez. Today on NewsHour, Israel's carried out another night of strikes on Iran, including, it says, on missile factories. But what is the end game? And can it achieve that without the help of the Trump administration? Also, how fraudsters are targeting a French music streaming site by using an army of bots to listen to AI-generated music. That's BBC NewsHour at 9 on WNYC.
'67 with clouds, showers likely, maybe an afternoon thunderstorm today. Fog until late morning or so be careful out there. Cloudy and a high temperature near 80 with a calm wind. And then tomorrow we could be in for some hazardous weather, lightning, hail, and an isolated storm, and some high winds as well. Let's be careful. It's 8:52.
There's been a big win in the Senate for cryptocurrency businesses.
Marketplace Morning Report is supported by Affinity, provider of the CRM for the private capital relationship economy. Affinity knows who has the best relationship with the right startup. Affinity.co/marketplace. And by Progressive Insurance. Progressive is looking for individuals who want to join an inclusive and unique culture. More information, including application, at progressive.com/careers.
I'm David Brancaccio in Los Angeles. The Senate has passed a bill setting up a framework of regulations for what are called stable coins. If something like this passes the House, it'll be a big win for the crypto folks. Marketplace's Nancy Marshall-Genzer has details.
Stablecoins are a type of cryptocurrency that's pegged to the U.S. dollar. Stablecoin backers say they could be used to send payments instantly and directly, cutting out middlemen. The Senate bill is called the Genius Act. It includes rules for private companies that want to issue digital dollars. The bill passed with some support from Democrats. Most Democrats were opposed, though, pointing out the legislation doesn't include anti-corruption measures or anything prohibiting President Trump and his family from making money from crypto. The House is considering its own crypto legislation and could make changes to the Senate bill. I'm Nancy Marshall-Genzer for Marketplace.
Just over half an hour before U.S. stock markets open, the White House has not taken direct military action against Iran, just one option under consideration. And S&P futures are up 0.2%. NASDAQ futures are up 0.3%. Strangely sanguine, the definition of sanguine being positive, especially in an apparently difficult situation. The Federal Reserve will likely not change interest rates when its meetings conclude in about 5 hours. The U.S. 10-year interest rate steady now, 0.38%. There we go. Now, middle of last week, the Trump administration was hard line on immigration raids, including farms and hotels. Late last week, after online posts from President Trump honoring the contributions of immigrant workers, an apparent reprieve for those industries. But coming out of the weekend, back to the hard line. Lobby groups for farms and businesses that employ people from other countries are now expressing concern. Today, as we continue our coverage, we look at contractors providing legally required services for people detained by Immigration and Customs Enforcement. These include medical care, where providers are trying to navigate the administration's assertions that detainees do not have rights to normal due process. Aspen Public Radio's Hallie Zander reports on a mental health facility in Colorado that decided not to take this business.
When Mind Springs, the biggest mental health provider in western Colorado, considered contracting with ICE in January, some in the Grand Junction community were alarmed. Former CEO Dr. Nicholas D. Torres said calls poured in.
There were some of our vendors that were telling us they were not going to work with us. There were some places that said they weren't going to renew leases with us.
ICE doesn't have a lot of infrastructure in western Colorado, and Mind Springs was typically filling only 30 of its 48 beds at its inpatient facility. The ICE contract would have filled the extra beds with immigrant detainees. Some immigrant advocates worried that if private companies like Mind Springs provide food, shelter, and medical care, it could make it easier for ICE to detain and deport people.
That's their opinion.
Again, Dr. Torres.
We have no say in the actual detention process. We're strictly providing those acute mental health services.
Across the country, private contracts with ICE are pretty common. A private prison based in Florida offers facilities. A tech company from Colorado provides data analytics software. And an air travel company out of New Mexico charters planes for deportation flights. But if there's no contractor available for the price ICE wants to pay,
they have to offer a higher price.
That's Cesar Cuauhtemoc Garcia Hernandez, an immigration law professor at Ohio State University. He says even though Trump's administration is working to increase funding for ICE, there's always a breaking point.
The more it costs to detain one person, the sooner that the federal government will get to the end of the line.
But John Fabricatori, a former ICE field office director, says that's not true when it comes to mandatory detention, even as costs rise. He says ICE will always arrest and detain people involved in serious crimes, and the community members who didn't want Mind Springs to contract with ICE were missing the point.
What they actually protested against was providing care that is needed for people that are in a detained setting.
And this deprived the local economy of some serious cash.
Somewhere else in the United States is going to provide that service, and those people are going to be moved to that location.
But it won't be Grand Junction. Mind Springs shut down its hospital in March. In Aspen, Colorado, I'm Hallie Zander for Marketplace.
Marketplace Morning Report is supported by MarketWatch. From housing prices to inflation, the market is uncertain. MarketWatch has tools to help navigate the road ahead. MarketWatch, don't short yourself. And by This Old House Radio Hour podcast, answering listeners' DIY and renovation questions and diving into home design trends, available in podcast apps.
The spawn of the horror film 28 Days Later is out in theaters this week, 28 years later, directed by Danny Boyle. In the last decade, horror movies has gone from 4 to 11% of U.S. box office. Marketplace's Stephanie Hughes looks at this flight to fright.
Jordan Homan likes the existential questions that movies like 28 Years Later bring up.
What if something world-ending happened and you're in this zombie apocalypse?
There are many kinds of death. Some are better than others.
How would people really act?
Homan works in project development for Phoenix Theaters, which has 9 locations across 5 states. All of them will be showing 28 Years Later. He's expecting people to show up because they want to be scared, but not by themselves.
There's an electricity that's created in that environment.
Paul Dergira-BDN is an analyst with ComScore. He says one thing that's boosted horror in the past decade is there have been a number of scary movies that are also critical darlings. He points to the 2017 movie Get Out and, more recently, Sinners.
A lot of people for whom going to a horror movie, not really their cup of tea, came out for those films after reading reviews.
Also, he says while people can spend a lot of money making horror films, they don't have to. That's different from, say, a superhero movie.
But a great horror movie, you could have one person in a room and scare people to death.
And he says horror movies do well internationally. Running from Zombies has universal appeal. I'm Stephanie Hughes for Marketplace.
And in Los Angeles, I'm David Brancaccio. This is the Marketplace Morning Report. From APM, American Public Media.